Welcome to the Deep Dive Podcast, where we explore the mind, mental health, and everything that shapes our inner world. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe, give this episode a like, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a moment of calm, clarity, and deep insight. Now let's dive in.
Welcome to your deep dive. Today we're focusing on something that touches many lives, but often remains in the shadows. Borderline personality disorder, or BPD. It's a term that can bring up a lot of misunderstanding, even some pretty harsh judgment. And, well, for you listening, our goal today is to really unpack what's at the heart of BPD with clarity and, above all, compassion.
Thank you for having me. It's really important to have these conversations.
It really is.
Because when we talk about BPD, we're talking about, a very real form of emotional distress. And it's just crucial that we approach it with understanding rather than, stigma.
Absolutely. So let's get right into it then. When we look at the clinical definition, what are the key things someone really needs to know about BPD?
Okay, so clinically, we define BPD by patterns of emotional instability, difficulties with impulse control, and often a history of complicated, sometimes turbulent relationships. But if we dig a little deeper, what often fuels these outward signs is a really profound level of emotional pain. Think of it almost like a rawness, an inability to process and regulate intense feelings effectively.
Right.
And alongside this, individuals with BCD frequently struggle with a very fragile sense of self and often a deep-seated fear of being abandoned. And the emotions themselves, they can feel overwhelming, almost constant sometimes.
Pain without a place to go. You've used that phrase before, and it really sticks with me. Could you elaborate a bit on what that signifies in the context of BPD?
Yeah, it often stems from early life experiences, though it's important to say this isn't always about, obvious trauma that's easily recalled.
Right, not always big T trauma.
Exactly. Sometimes it's more subtle. Maybe a child's emotional needs were consistently ignored, or perhaps love felt conditional, tied to certain behaviors. Inconsistent caregiving can also play a significant role. What happens is that the nervous system kind of adapts to this environment, becoming highly attuned, hypervigilant, really, to any perceived threat of rejection or disconnection.
Oh, okay.
And this heightened sensitivity then carries into adulthood, making it incredibly difficult to manage emotions and form secure, trusting relationships.
That hypervigilance, that likely contributes then to the intense ups and downs we sometimes hear about in relationships associated with BPD.
Precisely. Yeah. There's often this powerful yearning for closeness and connection, which is, a fundamental human need.
Of course.
But this coexists with a deep fear of being hurt or abandoned, often based on those past experiences. So this can manifest as a kind of push-pull dynamic.
Push-pull, how so?
Well, someone might cling intensely to a relationship, needing constant reassurance, and then suddenly push that same person away, maybe preemptively, fearing that inevitable rejection. The concept of splitting is also relevant here. It's a way of seeing others, and sometimes oneself, in very black and white terms.
All good or all bad?
Exactly. All good or all bad, with rapid and sometimes confusing shifts between these extremes.
And it's so important to emphasize, right, that this isn't some deliberate attempt to manipulate others.
Absolutely. That's crucial. Splitting is really a defense mechanism, a way the mind tries to cope with overwhelming and conflicting emotions. Internally, it's experienced as a state of real emotional turmoil, not some calculated strategy.
You mentioned overwhelming emotions. Can you maybe paint a picture for us of just how intense these feelings can be for someone with BPD?
Okay, well, imagine that dial on your emotional volume control for most people. Maybe it goes from 1 to 10.
Yeah.
For someone with BPD, their baseline might already be at a 5 or 6. And when an emotion hits anger, sadness, fear, even joy, sometimes it can shoot up way past 10, maybe to a 15, even a 20.
Wow.
So every feeling can be experienced at an extreme level. These emotions can arise very quickly, feel completely consuming, and sometimes appear to come almost out of nowhere. It's often described as living without an emotional skin.
Living without emotional skin.
Yeah, where even minor things can feel like a major wound hitting a raw nerve.
That makes the concept of identity instability much clearer then. If your emotional landscape is constantly shifting so dramatically, it must be incredibly difficult to maintain a stable sense of who you are.
Exactly. A fluctuating sense of self is really central to the experience of BPD. One day, you might feel confident, clear about your values, your goals. The next day, you could feel completely empty, unsure of who you are or what you even believe in. This can lead to shifts in opinions, interests, even aspects of personality often influenced by the people around them at the time.
So it's not about being fake.
No, not at all. It's about a lack of that internal anchor, that solid, consistent sense of self. When past emotional experiences have been maybe invalidating or inconsistent, individuals often look externally to others, to situations for a sense of stability and validation.
And that lack of an internal anchor
Yeah.
that can lead to those pervasive feelings of emptiness that you hear about so often.
Yes, absolutely. Chronic feelings of emptiness are a significant burden for many with BPD. And it's not just like boredom,
Yeah.
it's a deep, persistent sense of inner void, a lack of meaning or purpose. Sometimes even the feeling that one doesn't truly exist.
That sounds incredibly distressing.
It is. And this profound emptiness can be so distressing that impulsivity can become a way to try and escape it, To
Yeah.
feel something, anything, to fill that void, even just temporarily.
Which brings us then to the impulsive behaviors often associated with BPD, things like self-harm or substance use, risky behaviors.
Right, and it's crucial, really crucial to understand that these behaviors are very often attempts to cope with overwhelming emotional pain or that profound sense of emptiness.
Mhm.
They can provide a temporary escape, maybe a feeling of being alive or even in control when everything inside feels chaotic. But the relief is almost always short-lived, and it's often followed by intense guilt, shame, and ultimately more emotional pain, which just perpetuates a really difficult cycle. These are not acts of manipulation. They're often desperate attempts to manage unbearable internal states.
It's a relief to know that the understanding of BPD has evolved, and thankfully it's no longer widely considered an untreatable condition. What are some of the key approaches now that offer hope in recovery?
Absolutely. That's such an important point. Significant progress has been made, and we now know that recovery from BPD is definitely possible. Dialectical behavior therapy, or DBT, is probably the leading evidence-based treatment.
EPT.
Yeah. It focuses on teaching practical skills in 4 key areas. There's emotional regulation, learning to manage and change intense emotions. Mindfulness, being present in the moment without judgment.
Mhm.
Distress tolerance, which is about coping with difficult situations without resorting to harmful behaviors. And interpersonal effectiveness, focusing on building and maintaining healthy relationships.
So the goal isn't to get rid of emotions.
Not at all. The goal of DBT, really, is to help individuals experience their emotions, even intense ones, without being completely controlled or overwhelmed by them.
So it's about building skills, a toolkit almost, to navigate those intense feelings.
Precisely. That's a great way to put it. And beyond DBT, other therapies like schema therapy, mentalization-based therapy, and trauma-informed cognitive behavioral therapy can also be very effective.
Okay.
The journey of healing is really about developing this toolkit of strategies to navigate emotions in a safe and consistent way. Importantly, with self-compassion. It's not about becoming emotionless, it's about learning to live with intense emotions in a healthier way.
For anyone listening right now who might be recognizing some of these experiences in themselves, maybe seeing themselves in this description,
Yeah.
what message would you want to share directly with them?
If you're hearing this and it resonates, please know this. You are not broken. You are not defined by this diagnosis. You are not too much, and you are absolutely not beyond help.
That's so important.
It is. What you feel is real. Your pain is valid. You are allowed to feel it, and you absolutely deserve to heal. There is hope, and there are effective treatments available. Please reach out.
And for those on the other side, family, friends, partners, those who care about someone with BPD, what's a key piece of advice you would offer them?
It's a difficult balance sometimes, but I'd say remember that compassion and boundaries are not mutually exclusive. They can and they really must coexist. Understanding the intense emotional reality of someone with BPD is crucial for empathy, but it's also vital to establish and maintain healthy boundaries for your own well-being and for the relationship's health. Both are necessary.
Compassion and boundaries.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yes.
If we could shift the common perception of BPD, just fundamentally change how people view it, what's the single most important thing you'd want people to understand?
I think I would want people to understand that BPD is not a character flaw. It's not a conscious choice to be difficult or cause chaos. It's fundamentally a response to often significant, painful emotional experiences. It's a manifestation of that emotion that never had a safe place to land.
Hmm.
And, individuals with BPD often possess incredible empathy, creativity, and a deep emotional awareness because of their experiences. What they need most is understanding, validation, and safety, not judgment, not shame, and certainly not attempts at control.
Thank you so much for shedding such important light on this topic today. Your insights offer a really much-needed perspective, bringing so much clarity.
It was truly my privilege. Thank you for creating this space or for understanding.
And thank you, our listeners, for being with us for this deep dive into borderline personality disorder. It really is a testament to the complexity and also the resilience of the human mind. If this exploration resonated with you, perhaps helped you understand something new, please consider sharing it. And as you continue your own journey, maybe consider this. Where do your own emotions find their safe places? It's a question worth exploring for all of us.